everyone, I am Farah Kimji, and you are listening to the Futura Talks podcast. I believe the future will be built by those who see opportunity where others see uncertainty. It will be built by people that don't look like the traditional leaders of our past, but by women and individuals from diverse backgrounds that see the world differently and who are driven to make it better for all. This podcast will feature these people, self-made leaders and entrepreneurs that defy odds and are motivated to build a better future. We will also share practical advice for how you can unlock your full potential as the leader of your own Futura. Now, let's jump into today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Futura Talks. Today, I'm very excited to be sitting down in conversation with Ahmer Rafiq, the co-founder and CEO of Souqh, a one-stop shop for real estate and home services across Canada. After a decade of experience consulting and advising Fortune 500 companies around digital transformations, Ahmer moved into the startup world, where he focused on leveraging his digital transformation experience to simplify the home ownership experience for Canadians. Ahmer founded Souqh with the aim to be Canada's only all-in-one real estate and home services marketplace, providing technology and services to help real estate professionals deliver unparalleled client experiences. With over 20,000 unique monthly visits, Souqh brings together clients, realtors, mortgage brokers, law firms, inspectors, and associated industry partners to deliver a complete digital experience for their clients' home ownership journey, all in one place. As the real estate space is still near and dear to my heart, I am very excited to be sitting down with Ahmer today to share his journey to launching Souqh. Ahmer, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, so as you know, on this podcast, I really like to start by taking things back. So before we get into Souqh, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you and, what you were like as a child, and did you always have entrepreneurial dreams?
Yeah, for sure. So my childhood actually born in Pakistan, raised up in Saudi Arabia. So I lived in Saudi Arabia in Jeddah for about 14 years.
Okay.
Not much entrepreneurial experience or
Exposure.
exposure in that part of the world. However, because we were, all of my family and extended relatives were living in Pakistan, pretty much every single family member has their own business.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether it comes to retail, whether it comes to clothing, manufacturing, and every time in the summer we would get 2 months off. So the best thing we would do is spend time with all of our relatives in Pakistan, and there is where I was really exposed to entrepreneurship to begin with, where my uncles and many cousins were starting their own businesses. They had their own businesses, so I saw sort of the flexibility having your own business gives you, but at the same time sort of the sense of fulfillment that comes with owning your own business and providing the service that is actually making a difference in the lives of people. So that's really where I think a lot of my initial inspirations came from. And then back in 2004, when we moved to Canada, I was sort of in the middle of my high school.
Okay.
Ended up going to Waterloo to pursue engineering and really focused on software. And just the culture in Waterloo around innovation, entrepreneurship was just so great that I think it really gave me the resources and the connection to, start building on that journey.
Sure. And did you always know you wanted to go that path? Like as a child, where you're like, oh, I want to do something in computers, or, what was your kind of first thing you thought you would do when you would grow up versus what you ended up doing?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question, because I always I'm a big car fan, so I actually wanted
Okay.
to be a mechanical engineer.
There you go. Okay.
And that's what that was my first choice in Waterloo too.
Oh, interesting.
Unfortunately, I did not get into that program, but I think it's a good thing.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, the space that you're in now has really blossomed, right? And so to have skills in that area is obviously, a good thing. So you end up
exactly.
going to school, for that. And, tell us kind of you go through the program at Waterloo. And then what was kind of the first job that you landed outside of school?
Yeah, so I think that program was also really interesting. It's called Management Engineering, and Waterloo is
Okay.
the first university across Canada that really started that program.
Mm,
And the reason they came up with that program is they saw a lot of engineers were working in the field with a lot of engineering and core, science and sort of engineering principles, but they did not
sure.
have a lot of management or business acumen or skill set. So really, that's what that program was. It sort of combined a lot of business principles with engineering, and I thought it was a great fit when I got that offer.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's quite amazing actually. Like I was in the business program at McMaster and we had a few engineers taking a similar program that probably came after the Waterloo one. And so they kind of felt a little lonely sometimes in our classes, but I thought it was just such a genius combination of, programs to be put together because you're right, like, often engineers have great ideas, they know how to solve problems and those skills are highly applicable in business. But to marry the two so that you can actually start a business based off of what engineering feats you're accomplishing is quite impressive, right? So
Absolutely.
what a great program for you to have gone through.
Yeah, for sure. And I think all throughout like my co-op experiences, as well as like, when you do a capstone project.
Yeah.
So I remember
I
what I
remember capstone. Yeah.
yeah, it was a really
Oh
fun
god.
project, and we'd actually built a really impressive prototype for an online marketplace that
Okay.
brings together, all of your ebooks that well, at that time ebooks weren't even as popular, so
This was
that
like before like a
yeah,
Kindle even, or okay.
exactly, even before
Yeah.
Kindle. So this would
Yeah.
be an app that would run across, any iPad or Android
Mhm.
device. It brought sort of all of the books together in one place. It brought
Sure.
together all of the assignments. It brought together all of the, scores that university students would sort of keep track in different places. And I remember when we worked on that capstone project, we got some really good feedback. But to your point, I never thought when I was just graduating from university is that I would actually go into the entrepreneurship journey. Uh,
Yeah.
Before I had graduated, because I had a lot of co-ops with different types of companies,
Mhm.
I had an offer from Deloitte as part of their tech consulting even before I
Sure.
graduated. So I didn't really have the opportunity to pursue that further. But if I think about it right now, I think that would have been a great market because there were some really cool startups that evolved from Waterloo that really went into that space and that
Yeah.
made it pretty big.
Well,
I
you
worked.
never know, right? Like I still have this business idea from my MBA, which I, finished back in 2013. And I'm like, I dust it off sometimes. I'm like, this is still a good idea, but we'll see. And
There you go.
obviously that space that you were in is saturated now, but there's still so much room, right? For it to grow. So okay, so you end up taking this program and then, I assume kind of start or launch into your corporate career. So what was that first job that you ended up taking?
Yeah, so it was really a
Was it
technology
the one with
consulting.
Deloitte
Yeah,
then?
it
Yeah,
was
okay,
a
yeah.
technology consulting offer with Deloitte. So I was pretty technical and hands-on, I think, for the first 5 years, where I was really involved in a lot of consulting related hands-on technology implementations. So we did a lot of cool projects, ERP projects, digital transformation projects, revenue assurance projects. So I had the fortune of working across so many different industries.
Mhm.
And I think what was consistent across every single implementation was how sort of technology was being used to make a difference in people process as part of the corporate, implementations.
Mm. Yep.
So, worked at Deloitte for a few years, got a really good offer from PwC as part of their, technology consulting practice. So
Sure.
I went over to PwC, phenomenal culture, amazing clients, got to do a lot more digital and tech implementations. And really, after I want to say 7, 8 years of consulting, uh,
Mhm.
during that whole time, actually while I was in university and
Yeah.
while I was doing my job, because the situation in our family was like my dad was working back in Saudi Arabia and then he had to move to UAE. And my mom and my immediate family and siblings were here. So they were traveling a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
But my dad was involved in a lot of real estate investments in Canada.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
was sort of the go-to person, the child who would, be managing all
You
of
were the
those.
presence here, kind of.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
So during
Okay.
that whole time, I was involved in a lot of real estate transaction. And we'll get a little bit deeper into it. That's really
Yeah.
a lot of the inspiration of identifying the gaps in real estate and sort of leveraging the digital tech experience that I had built over the last seven
Mm.
years. The first startup that I actually worked on was called Exis Labs, where
Okay.
really focused on RPA, AI, analytics. That was, it was blowing up at that.
And were you doing that while you were still at PwC, or was that what you were doing like after you left PwC before starting
No,
Souq?
I was still working for PwC as a
Okay.
consultant, as a
Yeah.
contractor, and I had started this. It was,
Okay. Yeah.
a few friends sort of got together, saw a very niche market.
Yeah. I always love a
Uh,
good side hustle. So that's
yeah,
awesome.
so that's how it started. Unfortunately, it didn't go too far. We did create a good prototype. We took it to market, but working through startups, you learn so much. And I think it
Mhm.
was just too niche of a product. It required a lot, continuous and a lot of investment in product.
Sure.
And when we took it to market, the kind of feedback that we got, we quickly understood that continuing to invest in this product wouldn't be sort of the best use of our time and
And
resources.
resources.
So
Yeah.
at that time, then we stopped, that particular prototype.
Yeah. So you know what's so interesting though, and I think it's a great lesson for anyone thinking of, pursuing an idea or getting into entrepreneurship is the best way to learn is to just actually go out and do it, right? And you'll get the most feedback that way. So obviously with this first venture, you put yourself out there, you learned a lot and, ultimately I wouldn't even say, oh, just because it didn't take off. Like you learn what not to do, you learn what to do. You got really good feedback and it
Yeah,
just sets you up better for the next thing, right? Following.
100%, 100%.
Mhm.
Especially, I'm a big believer in if you want to fail, you fail fast and you learn and you
And fail
pivot.
forward. Yeah. Fail
Exactly.
fast, fail forward, pivot, like be ready. And I think those are all really good lessons in entrepreneurship, right? Like you can't stay stuck for too long or stay down about an idea not working out because before you know it, the next thing is there and ready for you to jump into. So okay, so tell us then what's you're working on this side hustle, you're at PwC and you gave us a little bit of a flavor of why you started thinking a bit more about the real estate space having worked with your dad and kind of some of the investments he had. So what really inspired this idea for Souqh and what made you decide to leave PwC then to pursue it full time?
Yeah. So even between Souqh and Access Labs, there's actually another startup that I was
Okay, yeah,
part of,
look, we've
Metal
got a
Network.
serial entrepreneur here. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, one of the great things that came out of Access Lab is the CEO of Metal Network, found me on LinkedIn. He saw the experience that I really had with technology integration because at Access Lab, there's a lot of focus on integrating ERPs live into product systems,
Okay.
with the continuous inventory. So, I got involved with Metal Networks as their CTO, worked there for 2 years in terms of building a AI-based metals marketplace that really
Okay.
helps buyers and sellers find the right products.
Okay. Yeah.
Because unlike ordering a simple product on Amazon, metals have so many different attributes, shorthands.
Sh-
So to
Sure.
find something from on the metal side in terms of unfinished products, quite difficult. So Metal Network was really this
Mm.
AI-based NLP search engine that really helped match buyer requirements to seller inventories in real time. Uh,
Okay.
and that's really where a lot of my learnings on marketplaces in terms of the B2B SaaS world,
Yeah.
all of those came. And after 2 years sort of working with Metal Networks, it was just sort of pre-pandemic, early in 2020, when myself and others that started Souqh. really came up with this idea where we saw the big gaps in real estate.
Mhm.
I've personally also gone through my own transactions. So, I was obviously supporting my dad with a lot of these transactions, but then I started my own investments where, buying pre-construction condos. And
Mhm.
same things sort of started to happen that, that repeated pattern, that big technology gap that was even further, I would say, enhanced because of COVID. People that were
Yeah.
buying and selling at that time were going through a lot of challenges. And that's really when I decided to move into Souqh full time.
Wow. So, you know what I love about this is, you got that exposure to a marketplace business, which is unique in and of itself, right? Because it's a two-sided market, marketplace, and that's what it is. But there's two challenges and two problems and two customer sets that you're trying to solve for, right? And it's not as easy as just solving one problem for one side of the market and finding the right business model to really support a marketplace. So it's really great exposure, I think, to get. And then, being able, and I love this with entrepreneurs, right? And especially engineers, and then maybe even your experience with, Deloitte and PwC, where really your skill set can be applied to any industry. Right. And your ability to see a problem that exists in one industry, you're like, well, then this exists here too. So I think, what I'm hearing is you said, well, okay, look, I now have this marketplace experience. I have the digital transformation experience. Real estate is severely lacking. There's a lot of gaps. There's not really a good flow or synergy between all the parties that are transacting together in a real estate deal. And you got that exposure by, your own problem, which is often the best place to start when starting a
Exactly.
business, is like having a problem that you had to solve for yourself or others that you're like, this could really be done better. So I guess that's what
Exactly it.
inspired the idea for the
A
business.
hundred
So
percent.
tell us, like, in your words, a little bit more about Souqh now. I know a bit, but I'd love to hear from you, about what it is you do and, the clients you have and the types of companies you serve and really what the key problem is you're trying to help them with.
Yeah. And you nailed it with regards to, really what influenced and what got me here.
Mhm.
I think the core of what we're trying to solve with Souk is really simplifying that home ownership experience, which is, like you said, dispersed across a lot of parties, a lot of steps, challenges when, first time homeowners are,
Yeah.
even thinking about getting into that first home, leaving aside market conditions, inflation, interest rates, all of those things at this time, just thinking about, let's step back to when we were buying our first home, right?
Mhm.
The kind of stresses that you go through, the things that you have to worry about. And then a lot of times you don't have that guidance or that network to help you with every stage, right? In terms of finding the right vendors,
Yeah.
in terms of coordinating between all of them, because it really is a series of steps.
It's a lot of work. It can be like a full-time job, right? Just to close on a transaction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
With a
there's,
lot of stress, right? Like this is the biggest purchase that anyone is going to make in their lifetime. The
absolutely.
most amount of money they're ever going to spend likely
Yeah.
until they upgrade their home, but it's a big deal. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's just it, right? Connecting with the right people, collaborating with people more efficiently, and then being able to sort of, manage that post ownership experience because
Mm.
your challenges with your home doesn't end when you buy a home. Then you have new challenges as a homeowner,
Yeah.
right? So really that's what we're solving at Souk. Every step of the home buying and ownership journey, we're
Okay.
simplifying in one digital platform. So if you're looking to buy, you're looking to sell, you can basically go through one platform that helps you connect with verified and vetted professionals. It helps
Mhm.
you collaborate with everyone in one place. So everything from scheduling, document management, contracting, videos, keeping track of all of the steps that are required, understanding what that journey is like, and then
Mhm.
actually being able to get a mortgage, do a full virtual closing, find inspectors, find movers, pay them. All of that has sort of been built into Souq to basically
Okay.
streamline that experience soup to nuts. And then post
Yeah.
transaction, once you go into your home, typically people want to, do some painting, do some renovations.
Of
So
course.
we've built that entire network into Souq, 35 plus different categories.
Wow.
Where if you're, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, I was just going to pause you there for what I love about this is like normally when you are, playing this space, you've got multiple platforms or people
Exactly.
who are playing, like who play a part in this role. Like I haven't really seen, yes, there's lots of real estate tech companies out there now, but not usually they're just doing one part of that puzzle, right? Like there's the brokerage side of it. There is the home services side of it at the end, or there's the, closing of the transaction side of it. But to have this sort of end to end,
Yeah.
start to finish kind of, and then ongoing, right? As you're a homeowner is really, really unique. So I think, like really, I personally would use something like this. And I think a
Me
lot
too.
of people would, right? Because they're like, if I can just go on one platform and do this whole thing and it's all there for me. And I'm assuming all your documents get stored, in
Yep.
some way. And so, yeah, tell us maybe a little bit more about kind of what the user experience is like for a homeowner.
Yeah, so the homeowner experience, again, to go to Souqh, souqh.ca, I would definitely encourage people to go check it out. It takes less than 60 seconds to sign up. Um,
Okay.
they can start their entire journey by themselves. So you can go sign up, you can find realtors, you can check out their storefronts, their reviews, sort of where they've done transactions, find the right professionals. Or, if you're interested in talking to multiple, you could do that too on our platform.
Mhm.
Once you find the right professionals, like you said, you could basically go through the whole journey on the same platform in terms of contracting with them, signing documents, storing all the documents. You can find mortgage brokers, get a full approval through our platform once you're approved. And again, all of these documents pertaining to the transaction. I think one thing that I personally found a lot of times challenging was coordinating the documents between all these people.
Yeah.
So with Souqh, everything is in one place, and the people that are supporting the transaction have access to that shared
Yeah.
repository of documents by
Ba-
client.
Based on whatever their rights are for whatever
Exactly.
documents they need to see. Yeah.
Exactly.
Got it.
So they
Okay.
would see the names of the document, but if they want to request access, they'll have to go in and
Got it.
request access, and then the document owner can go and approve access. So once the realtor uploads the APS, the mortgage broker gets a notification. Once the
Mhm.
mortgage broker goes in and uploads their, approval of the funding, the legal team that's supporting that transaction, they get a
Mhm.
notification. And all they have to do is just go in and request access. They can see each other, they can message each other on the platform, they can
Wow.
talk to each other. So it really makes that coordination for that particular transaction
Yeah.
really easy and simple, because otherwise it's all happening over emails,
Yeah,
phone
and you can see it all. You have a history of it, I'm
calls.
assuming, versus
Yeah,
like, oh, I think I found this in some email over here, and
exactly.
then this document was in this email, and this person wasn't CC'd. Like we all know the issues that
Yeah,
happen, right? Yeah.
exactly. And the worst thing you want is on the day of closing, be chasing around your lawyers
Yeah.
chasing around realtors. This document is missing. So I think all of those challenges can really be, alleviated if everyone's just using one platform to do a lot of that coordination. And that's really, I think, what Souqh does really well, brings everyone together in one place
Mm,
and streamlines the whole operation. And to your point, virtual closing. So lawyers are actually using our platform to do full virtual closings,
wow.
including, being able to video conference with clients while they're doing all of the e-signatures. And
Yep.
once the virtual closing is done, you can find your movers, you can get quotes from multiple movers, you can pay them directly on the platform. And one thing which I really like is every time a homeowner is using Souqh to pay a vendor, we
Hmm.
actually give them a credit back that they
Credits.
can use for the next service. So
Yeah.
I closed my home with Souqh. Maybe I paid the property inspector. Maybe I paid the law firm my closing fee, or any other people that were involved in the transaction. I now have a credit that when I move into my home, I can actually use it towards,
Home
cleaners,
services
painters,
and
home
yeah.
services. And that continues to build every time they use the
Mhm.
platform. Again, it's free to use. They find the right people, and every time they use it, it helps them save towards their next.
Yeah, I think it's so amazing. I mean, the fact that it's a free to use for the homeowner is quite, quite a great offering. Like whether you use it or not, you can at least go search and play around and see if it's
Yeah,
right for you.
exactly.
And so because it's a marketplace, obviously then the providers and the service providers that are on there, they're obviously paying, to be on there. So tell us about, sort of their fee structure or
Yeah.
SaaS-based fee that they pay. Yeah.
Yeah, so really the value proposition that we see for all of these vendors that are providing services, again, they also struggled with providing a digital experience to their clients because everything was really over phone calls, emails, messages. So I think number one, Souqh really digitizes that experience and brings their teams together. But apart from that, realtors and others that are actively using the platform, we're hearing back, 10 to 15 hours a month in terms of time savings.
Wow.
All of the technology that they typically use to support transactions is built in. So a lot of them are actually saving money by using one platform that,
Hmm.
brings all of this together. And then we also have a concierge service when they onboard their clients, they can actually pass them on to our onboarding team, and a lot of the initial type of questions that these service providers have and their clients have can be supported by our team.
Amazing.
And then really the one of the biggest things within a marketplace is that network effect, right? Where, the other day we had a new realtor join the platform. They're like, hey, I'm just new to real estate. I don't have, mortgage brokers that I know. I don't have a lot of, law
Mm.
firms that I know. And this is a great place for me to be able to buy my own
Search.
practices,
Yeah.
search and grow my network and recommend those
Yeah.
to my clients and still be sort of that, pivotal advisor as a realtor, because a lot of times your clients are going to rely on the realtor to give
Hmm.
them recommendations
It's
for
true.
everyone that
Yeah.
they need throughout their journey,
I
right?
mean, I absolutely, when I did my first transaction, I, started with the realtor. That person then, found me a mortgage broker as well as the lawyer. Right. And I just didn't even bother. I just trusted the realtor enough to just say, let's do it. And mind you, everything was very physical. Like, when I met with the lawyer, it was in
Yep.
person. We closed in person. Like a lot of things, this was a while back, were done in person, other than like DocuSign,
Yeah.
to do some of the agreements. But even with the lawyer, like the lawyer wasn't even using DocuSign for stuff, right? Like I had to go in person. So
Yeah.
and it's quite
I've
powerful, but
been there.
I love the network effect, right? Because I'm assuming there's like a review based system as part of this too. So it's a good place for a realtor service provider to build up their brand,
Exactly.
and whatnot, and get noticed. And I think you also mentioned to me in a conversation before that there is an opportunity for realtors in the future to, or not just realtors, any service providers to pay for, advertisements on the platform for their services as well.
Yeah, we have the ability to run marketing campaigns on our platform. So really where that came from is, you may also be receiving a lot of these brochures in your mail for, realtors telling you about,
Yeah.
hey, you're ready to buy, buy a new property, sell a new property. Oftentimes, a lot of the marketing that is happening is not landing in the right places, and it's
Mhm.
not targeted appropriately to the demographic that's actually in the market looking to buy or
Sure.
connect with the right people, right? So because when we bring on home buyers and owners to our platform, we actually collect some of their data. Again, it's optional, but
Mhm.
that gives us the ability to help, service providers target the right demographic that they're looking to get in front of, and then be able to appear as featured when they're looking for a particular, realtor in Oakville that specializes in detached houses in a particular,
Mm.
value or a range of, the house. Realtors have the ability to now rank higher to those specific potential
Yeah.
clients as opposed to not being able to get in front of that client, right?
Yeah, and
So
it's now a more qualified lead for them, essentially.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and to your question earlier, like the revenue model, again, it's
Mm.
a B2B SaaS subscription. We also have a freemium tier for people that just want to come onto the marketplace and then have their digital presence, because you'll be surprised, a lot of realtors and other service providers today do not have their own website.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have no social media, they have no online presence, and
They're not searchable even.
they're
Yeah.
not
There's
searchable online,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
88% of millennials, when they did their transaction last year, when they chose to go with a realtor, they went and looked at their online profile. And if they were not able to find them or they did not see a good profile,
Yeah.
they go with them, right?
Yeah.
So imagine the people that don't have this presence are losing out on so much business.
Wow, this is quite a powerful tool. And so tell us a little bit, before I get into how it's been going, and you kind of entered a space where there are some already established players there, right? Like in parts of the business that you're doing. So what motivated you, or what made you sort of feel like you could enter this space and, even though there's a lot of competition, and especially within real estate and real estate marketplaces and services, how did you guys decide to enter, and what do you really feel is your differentiating factor?
Yeah. So I think the differentiating factor, two things. Number one, prop tech has definitely been growing all across Canada over the last 2 years. 200 plus prop tech companies were formed in Canada.
Yeah,
But I
I
think
know.
the core difference that we still saw was, to your point, the customer is still seeing emails, phone calls, messages, and maybe some e-sign coming through. That's what one of our investors literally said. Look, I bought my home 15 years ago. And then when I did my next transaction, the only thing that I saw difference was e-sign introduced. Everything else was the same in terms of challenges,
Right.
coordination. So really what motivated us to start Souqh is how can we make the customer experience different, right? And
Mhm.
that's why as customers, you can actually go on to Souqh. It's a full platform, spend a lot of time building that portal for customers to be able to manage that entire journey with their home.
Mhm.
I think that's a big differentiator.
Yeah, I think too, right? Like as much as real estate, everyone has some interaction with real estate in some way. It is traditionally been a more, conservative traditional business, right? With
Yeah,
sort of this is how we do things, this is how we've always done it. There's no real reason or impetus to need to change. And then in the last few years that started to change. And
yeah,
then with COVID, it just
exactly.
completely got accelerated where it's like we can no longer not have digital presence, digital platforms, virtual platforms, and we saw all of those pop up very quickly actually. But as much as there's a lot of players, there's not a lot of established players really doing things in a different way. I remember when I did my first transaction, I guess it was like 2013, and it felt like you were very much at the mercy of like the providers, like that the bank had all the power, that the broker
Yeah,
had the power, like, and as the customer, you didn't feel like you had agency, like you were just kind of like, whatever they told you, you just went with. Now
yeah,
I think there's so much more transparency, right? Because people are going online, they're doing their own searches, they're looking on Google, they're comparing and contrasting realtors, they're doing all this work, but now they're doing like almost too much work online to like figure out, what's the right path for them. So you've come into a place where there was a need for more digital tools and presence, and but also streamlining the process so that people, aren't having to go to 17 different websites to just find the right providers for them, right?
yeah.
And I think there's so much space to grow and even grow your offering too, right? Like obviously this is the core product, but there'll be so many adjacent markets for you to get into as well.
Yeah, and to your point, it is definitely an established space in terms of all of the others that are providing services. But I
Mhm.
think the cool thing, given that we're a marketplace, is we work with all of those vendors and we're open to
Yeah.
integrating new partners. So for example, with home deposits, right? So we partnered with a company called Home Deposits now, where you can get your home deposit in under 5 minutes, and you can actually do that through Souq.
Wow.
There's a lot of innovation that's happening within the fintech space. So you're looking for mortgage brokers. We partner with Perch, for example. So Perch
Yeah.
is still on Souq. You can find them. You could go through your whole journey with Perch. Same thing on the legal side. There are a lot of companies that are innovating in that space. So whoever is there, we're not saying that hey, you only have to go through Souq. We're saying you can come here to find everyone that you want,
It's
and then
yeah,
you can
even
do it
if
in
you're
one
just
place.
sourcing from
Exactly.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Which
then
is the beauty of a marketplace, right? So yeah, like tell us a little bit about that, what it's like to actually build a marketplace versus, and I know you had some experience with it before, but
yeah,
obviously it's a little bit of a different beast, so to say, to
yeah.
tackle than your typical, type of, digital platform. So tell us about that and why you think, the marketplace is the right way to go for, for your business.
Yeah, so I think we can definitely see how marketplaces in history have been successful with a lot of great examples, Amazon to name one of them, and many others. And we can see, especially over the last few years, how consumer behavior has really changed to adopting these digital tools, and especially marketplaces, right? They've become so common where you don't have to go through so many places to find something. You can just come to one place, and in a few clicks, what you need is at your doorstep. So the same idea, on our side. I think a fun fact, Souqh actually means marketplace. So a lot of
Yeah,
people
I
that
mean, I've
don't
been to
know.
a souk, in actually when I was in Dubai. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. The
Yeah.
gold Souqh, right?
Yeah, right? I mean, you have to go to the gold souk when you're in Dubai for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, the inspiration behind our name also came from the fact that we are building a marketplace.
Mhm.
And that was really what we saw very unique in terms of number one, a lot of marketplace emergence across, global tech realm. And we're seeing, companies like Amazon and so many other sort of really making that customer experience so much easier from start to end. They can order something and it's, at their doorsteps, in some cases in a few hours, and in some cases, the next day. And same thing in real estate. You'll see, different ups and downs, maybe in a particular category in the housing market, in home services. But really, the benefit of a marketplace is if you're looking to lease, you can find realtors. If you're
Mhm.
looking to buy, you can find people. If you're looking to sell, you can find people. And if you just own a home and you're looking for any type of vendor, you can find them, right? So I think building a marketplace definitely has its own challenges, but I think it was definitely the right model for us to build because what we were trying to do is really bring everyone together in one place, and you can't really do that without having an open marketplace.
Yeah.
In terms of
And a question though, I've worked with a few companies who have built sort of marketplaces or two-sided, kind of transactions. And there can be some challenge. Like there's a bit of the chicken and the egg problem of like,
yeah.
okay, we have all these realtors on here now, but we don't have any homeowners or vice versa. So how have you navigated? Obviously, you're still going through that, but how are you navigating that challenge?
Yeah, I think the chicken and egg problem is one of the most common ones that we've seen in marketplaces. But I think one of the benefits that we have with Souqh is it's not just a place where service providers can come and find new clients, but they can actually onboard their own clients to provide them that digital experience, right? So if I'm the
Mhm.
mortgage broker, if I'm the realtor, I can actually invite my existing clients to Souqh so that they have that
Yeah.
overall digital experience. And as they do that, now these clients actually have other referrals that these realtors can help recommend to them, and like you also mentioned from your own experience, sort of every realtor has their own Rolodex of preferred mortgage brokers, law firms. So that's how we're building out the supply side on the marketplace, by basically tapping into existing networks of realtors and mortgage brokers, because these tend to be the gatekeepers of transactions when they're starting. And then on the flip side, on the demand side, obviously these people are bringing in their own clients, but at the same time, we're doing a lot of organic focus on bringing in net new clients. So when we started Souqh back in November last year, we were getting like about 1,000 visits
Mhm.
to our website marketplace on a monthly basis. As of this month, that's increased to 20,000, right? So a lot
Wow.
of organic traffic coming in through a lot of the investments that we're making on the B2C side. But to your point, one of the things that we were doing before, we through our marketing, we were trying to focus on both the B2B side and the B2C side, and it was becoming very challenging because it's not that we only focus on realtors, right? We have 40 different categories, so B2B across 40 different types of
Yeah, it's
businesses,
not
and then
just one. Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah,
And to really deliver on the value that you guys are trying to give, you need everybody on there, right?
exactly. But what we
Or
did,
or not everybody, eventually everyone, but
yeah,
like to start at least a few people that can at least close the transaction together, right?
yeah, exactly. So what we did is through marketing, we exclusively focus only on B2C now. So everything marketing is really B2C focused. And we,
Mhm.
ramped up our sales team to really focus on the B2B side. So our sales enablement is really focused on building up the supply. And
Okay.
then marketing is really focused on building up, the B2C side of things. And I think one thing that really worked well for us is initially we were going directly to service providers like realtors, mortgage brokers. We're still doing that, but now we've sort of changed the strategy where we're going directly to like real estate boards and associations,
Mhm.
right? And through some really good strategic partnerships, we're working with 9 out of the 36 boards in Ontario right now, where we're
Yeah.
able to reach out to thousands of realtors, bring them onto our platform through different types of partnership agreements that we're having with these boards, and then really use their networks to grow Souqh. So I
Sure.
think, we've come to a good point right now where building the supply is not a challenge. We're actually investing in automation now because we have almost 3,000 vendors that are on our wait list that we need to onboard.
Wow.
We've just
This is
completed.
a very good problem to have, but I
Yeah,
love that you've said like, look, we can't do this one to one. We'll find a way to scale
yeah,
and bring on more realtors at once and then automate that entire process, right?
exactly.
But
Yeah,
what I love about this, what's great about a marketplace is that it really focuses on the customer
yeah,
experience, right? And so you're solving a problem that many customers have, and that's what's unique is like being able to come to a one-stop shop. And in real estate, and I alluded to it earlier, like as much as obviously the customer is at the heart of the transaction because they're the ones putting up the money, the journey was never really focused around them. It was
exactly.
always the lawyer's timeline or the banker's timeline or the realtor's timeline. And so now putting everybody together, just, creates a more collaborative approach
Yeah,
with the customer in mind, right? Like this service is free for
100%.
customers. And so I really love it. I think it's a
Thank
genius
you.
idea. And you guys are just, in the earlier stages, but
Yeah.
obviously have had some good traction already, with
Yeah.
3,000 vendors in the queue. That means you're doing something right. So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, I think
yeah.
across all the categories, so I think we have close to 500 vendors that are live on the platform right now across sort of
Yeah.
every single category that we have. Um,
Okay.
and like I said, about 3,000 in queue that we're waiting to onboard. We're seeing a lot of good traffic even on the website where a lot of people are coming and searching for these type of transactions. I think the other day I was looking at, how many transactions we've supported over 500 transactions. So connecting people,
Wow.
doing those transactions in, I want to say less than a year, which I think is great for an early stage startup in terms of being able to support that type of,
Absolutely, right? And, just the fact that you're so early stage yet you've had that, now think about it once you've optimized your SEO, you're showing up on every search, you are, people know about you, that exposure is there. We've talked about even, raising additional funds to help you scale
yeah.
and, really invest on the marketing side of your business, right? And so it's very exciting. I mean, we're probably going to have you back in a few years to update us on where Souqh will be. But what's next for Souqh? Tell us, what you see the next sort of, short term and longer term future for your business.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, I think we're really focused on the Ontario market.
Okay.
But really our goal, as we, like you mentioned, raise our next capital funding round, we want to be able to accelerate and scale at a much quicker pace.
Hmm.
And that's really where I think that funding and additional network will support us. We're planning to launch in BC early next year, and then in Alberta mid to late next year. So entering two new markets. We do believe we're sort of at the sort of place where we're hitting that product market fit with our audience. So we're also going to be investing in product and building out a mobile app because that's where a lot of customers are more accustomed to using those type of platforms. So
Hmm.
even though our current platform is fully mobile optimized, it's still a web application, right? So you don't have an app on your mobile that you can download. So I think continuing to grow our teams, continuing to invest in product and entering new markets is really what 2023 is going to be all about for us.
Okay, awesome. And I'd like to ask, like, obviously, building a business is not easy. So if you were to go back and start your entrepreneurial journey again, like, is there anything that you would do differently?
Yeah, so to your point, building a business is not easy. A lot of startups fail. So I think one of the things we talked about earlier is, don't spend a lot of time in that initial, product that you want to build. Get to an MVP, take it to market, see how the
Mhm.
market reacts. Because a lot of times, we have a sense of what we think will work,
Yeah.
but until it's not out there and you're not getting feedback from actual users, and not just the initial that you're doing in your proof of concept and your prototype stage, but it's there in front of hundreds and thousands of people, you won't really know what's sticking, what's not sticking. So as early as possible, take your prototype to market,
Okay.
see what aspects are really working, which ones are not working, and then pivot quickly and focus on the ones that you think are really driving traction.
Mhm.
And at the end, making sure that that core focus has to remain, I think, throughout the journey. even for
Mhm.
us, there are spaces in commercial real estate, in pre-construction, in so many spaces. So initially we were thinking, hey, maybe we can do it all. We can start with all of
Yeah,
those. But then we said, okay, let's just really focus on residential at this point. And then once we're doing really well in residential, then we can,
we can
expand to
expand.
commercial. And then we can even, go to pre-construction, for example.
Yeah, it's interesting that you sort of say that because I think the first part about the MVP, right? Getting something out there because sometimes as founders we fall in love with our ideas and we just think they're the best thing.
Yeah.
And then you share them with a few people and yeah, get some feedback. You're like, no, no, it's still good. But until you actually have customers who will use it, who will pay for it,
Right.
who you right, then you really aren't in business. You're sort of got
Exactly.
you've got this like great idea
Yeah.
and then I think that you know, that focus is so like so important because even myself sometimes I just find that, I'm always like, "Oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do that." And then sometimes you end up doing nothing because you're so overwhelmed by all the opportunities. And as founders, we're like that. We're always seeing what's next on the
Yeah.
horizon. We're like, here's another application of how we can, scale this business. But to actually execute, implement, and get things off the ground is the key, right? Because then you actually build the credibility to then be able to go into those spaces, right? And then you've got a platform that's fully built that then you just tweak for the next market, right? Or next geography or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Um, what advice would you give to our listeners who might be considering, an entrepreneurial journey of their own or endeavor or business idea, whatever it might be? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, go for it. Number one.
Yeah,
Don't A lot of times, there are a lot of personal and external factors that um, don't allow people to go in and pursue those ideas. But I started this after maybe 8 or 9 years in my professional career. Going back to that first idea I had, for example, if I had pursued that right from university, I think I would be in a very different place right now.
sure.
I would definitely say pursue your dreams. A lot of people have ideas, but I think it's really important to surround yourself with the right people who can help you execute, right?
Mhm.
So obviously, I'm sharing the story behind Souqh, but we have a fantastic team that's really helped us get to where we are today. And I think if it wasn't for our team, our advisors, and the people that we surrounded ourselves with, we would definitely not be here today, right? So, have the courage to pursue your ideas, surround yourself with the right people. And I think in the end, I want to say have the right intentions, because I'm a firm believer where, if your intentions are good, then you
Mhm.
succeed and things will work out, right? And our intentions are really to help simplify a lot of challenges that everyone across, that's going through that home journey has. So I think because that intention is good, we have the right folks, we have the right team. I do think that this is something that, we'll give our best shot to.
Yeah, I love that, and I think sometimes we're afraid or scared to just get started, and so these ideas that we have kind of die on a page or right? Or
Yeah.
stay in our head and they never come to fruition, but I always say if you have this idea for a business and it's coming from a good place, then there's likely a need for it out there, right? Like
Exactly.
if you believe in it, there's someone else who will believe in it and your job as an entrepreneur is really to bring it to life and stay true to yourself. I think sometimes we pursue businesses that we're like, okay, well, this will make us a lot of money, but we have no passion behind it. We don't
Yeah.
really love the problem we're trying to solve. And then it just, ultimately isn't very successful, right? So I love that you're like just following your voice, your intuition, you're following your this path and really trying to solve a problem that so many people experience, right? And I think that's really important is to like fall in love with the problem that you are trying to solve, right?
Absolutely.
So I love that.
And to your point, sometimes it doesn't feel like work. We
Yeah.
started Souq, and just a few months before that, I had my first baby, right? So you can imagine
Oh,
the first year as being, a parent is not easy, especially when it's
sure.
your first one.
Yeah.
Uh, and also launching a startup
At the same
almost
time,
at
it's
the
like
same time is
birthing
not
two
easy.
babies. Yeah.
Exactly, two
Yeah.
babies. So, and still to date, right? I still don't feel like it's work because I'm so passionate about it. I enjoy it. I give it my, over 100% because I truly believe in what we're building.
Yeah.
I think that's so important, right? As
I think so, and I think that some people forget that, right? And I remember when I was growing up and people would say to me, "Oh, when you love what you're doing, then it doesn't feel like work." And I used to just like be like, "Okay, what are they smoking?" Right? Like this just doesn't feel right. And I think once you actually start doing work you love with the
Yeah,
people you love in the way that you want to do it on your terms, it actually, like, I feel it. I wake up every day being so excited to serve, the entrepreneurs that I work with and to deliver value and to, like, I feel like a sense of purpose of why I'm here. And so I love that you have found that and
yeah,
that you are, birthing these two babies and bringing them to life. And I think it's so, and it's challenging, right? And that's the other thing
definitely.
is a lot of people will say, well, now's not the right time. I've got a young child at home. And reality is there's never a good time. You
Yeah,
just have to go for it, and both can exist, right? Both can be true for
exactly.
you. You can have success in both areas.
Yeah, you have
Um,
to learn to balance, but I really want to thank you because people like you and all of these other resources that are helping entrepreneurs be successful, share their stories, learn from others. I think it's people like you that are really helping,
oh,
the entrepreneurs that are out there in terms of building their visions, helping their dreams come true, and helping connecting them with the right people to, continue building what they're trying to build. So
yeah.
thank
I
you and
think
everyone else like you that's really
Oh,
helping us.
I appreciate that so much, and I think I do it personally because I know what it's like to not have that support, and so and I also know, like, okay, if I had that support, then this is how much better my ideas or business or ability to execute would be. And so I found a real, purpose through that to say, like, oh my gosh, there's so many people out there who have these ideas and they don't have the resources or they don't have the right people surrounding them to get their ideas off the ground or to make this real idea that is actually going to create some impact in the world in a really positive way. They're not able to get it off the ground for sometimes simple reasons, right?
Yeah.
Like, not because their idea is not good, but maybe they didn't have the right circle around them. And I'm trying to
Absolutely.
change that. So I appreciate you for recognizing that, because this is kind of why I do what I do. And this is also why I tell the stories of the people who are building these amazing businesses and really changing what the future will look like in certain industries. And, for your industry, for real estate, like, things will be very different 5 years from now because
Yeah.
Souqh exists. It's
Yeah,
going to
we hope so.
actually it's going to actually make all the others out there say, like, we got to step up our game. And that's going to be such a good thing for the end user
Exactly.
and
For the
customer
end client.
experience. Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
So before we cap off, I'd love to ask you, and I ask all my guests this question, but what are you listening to these days? Is there a podcast or a book that you can recommend to our audience?
Yeah, so definitely podcasts in the real estate in prop tech space.
Yeah.
We just became members of the prop tech collective, so I think that's a great source.
Mhm.
In prop tech, I'm really seeing a lot of accelerators come through. So I'm subscribed to a lot of those. Again, they're very
Okay.
specific to prop tech,
Yeah.
so I definitely find it helpful. And then also looking at globally where prop tech is going and not just North America,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I feel like oftentimes, especially with me born in Pakistan, growing up in Saudi Arabia, I've done a bit of traveling. So I've seen how things are happening in other countries. And a lot of times we're sort of, tunnel vision and sort of stuck in
Sure.
our ways. I think it's so important to continue looking outside and seeing how
Agreed.
things are happening there and try to sort of, bring that back to Canadian. So
Yeah.
that's something that I spend a lot of time looking at, in external countries, how people are sort of pursuing real estate and seeing if there's anything that we can do here better for Canadians.
Absolutely. Like, globally, the trends in real estate, like, we are often kind of behind here in North America, right? And so if you look to Europe, even if you look to the Middle East, there's some really exciting projects going on around the world, even Southeast Asia, like pretty much everywhere. So you can draw inspiration, and sometimes the best ideas actually come from saying, well, this already works in this country and we just don't have this here. So some version of it will probably work here too. So I love that you are just so immersed in all
Thanks.
things real estate, and that's what happens when you're in flow and you're in the right space. You just want to be surrounded by that stuff, and you can tell someone loves what they do when even in their spare time they're still listening to real estate stuff. So I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
So how can our listeners engage with you online? We'll add, your tags to the show notes.
Yeah, I mean, Souqh.ca, we have live chat that's connected to me and everybody else in the team. So
Okay,
that
great.
would encourage them. Otherwise, LinkedIn is a great place to connect. And I'd love to, share our stories, what we're doing that's helping us, and even other entrepreneurs that are looking to go through similar journeys. Happy to connect with them virtually or in person if they're in Toronto and sort of, share our experiences with Souqh.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ahmer. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you today.
Likewise.
And I'm so excited for your journey. And we'll be sure to keep our audience updated as you progress. So thank you
Thank you
again
so
for your
much,
time.
Sarah. Our
Yeah.
pleasure to be here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Futura Talks. I hope it has left you inspired and motivated to pursue your dreams, find your calling, and follow your heart in your life and business. If you enjoyed this conversation, it would mean so much to me if you would consider leaving a review, and better yet, sharing this episode with someone who will be inspired to start building their own Futura. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and I will see you next week.